Son of the morning. Jesus said, I am the bright and the morning star. Lucifer used to be in the circle of God.
Smoke him out, smoke him out.
See, now you get to understand where that intelligence is coming from that the dragon has.
Gotta base it on something.
He came from the circle of God. So in order for him to extend his stay of his time period that was judged upon him of 6 days you shall rule, and on the 7th day you will rest. Then if he wants to extend his stay, he has to study God and the people of God. Now, black people are the chosen people of God.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But 85% of us are not even up in that circle of knowledge yet.
Think about it.
So Satan ain't studying you.
Right.
There's a particular group of us that he studies.
That's right.
So when you see those who are of black nationalism, as they would call it, and they're organizing, you find the FBI watching them.
That's right.
You find the CIA keeping eyes on them.
That's right.
Homeland Security.
Yeah, brother.
Local police sending in spies undercover to be among them, just to see if they are a part of that 5% of the population of black people who have entertained the wisdom of God since he's been here in North America. The true Shriners, they know about it.
That's right.
The true Mason knows about it.
That's right.
This is not to take away from our brothers who are black, who are Masons, and our sisters who are Eastern Stars, but that white man ain't teaching you the Masonry that he knows.
Think about that.
That's right. No way. No way.
You know why? Because he knows that you are above him.
That's right. Jeez, brother.
He knows that when you go through the ritual on the cable tow and electric blanket, that it wasn't you that was being marched across the hot sands, it was him. And it was you on the horse marching him across the black sand. But he knows you don't know because of Jubilee, and Jubilee. There was a man going from Jerusalem to Jericho that was hit in the head and robbed among thieves and left laying in the road.
Jeez, brother. That's right.
And the priest came by and saw him and kept on walking. And the Levite came by and saw him in the road and looked at him, shook his head. At least he stopped and at least shook his head, but kept on walking. But the Good Samaritan, when he came and saw the man laying in the road, he helped the man and picked him up, poured oil in his wound that was in his head, wrapped it up, put a crown on top of that oil, took him to an innkeeper, and paid the innkeeper to keep him, and said, if it's not enough, I'll give you more upon my return. That wasn't 2,000 years ago. That's a parable of the future of the original people who have been stolen from the righteous in the East. That's our ancestors. Hit in the head, left in the road here in North America, left in the road in this Western Hemisphere, from the Caribbean all the way down. All of us been hit in the head hard.
That's right, brother.
But the worst condition is right here in America.
That's right.
So the oil that's being poured in the wound that's in our head is the teachings of God, coming to us through the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Louis Farrakhan. You can take it or let it alone, brothers and sisters. That Good Samaritan is God in person.
That's right.
Master Fard Muhammad.
That's right. That's right.
All praises are due to Allah. He is the fulfillment of the prophecies in the scripture of the Bible.
That's right.
Look, man, you know, I know the time is on us, and I get excited, and I'm not going to take my time. But I will say,
Yeah.
inside. Save a soul.
The teachings that has been given to us is not just for us here in the mosque.
That's right. That's right.
That's true.
This is for all of our people.
That's true.
All of our people. Everyone.
That's true.
And if we are not studying this and striving to live by it, God will remove us.
That's right. Teach on it, brother.
And bring in a people that will do better.
That's right.
There shouldn't be a time we come up in here and there are empty seats.
That's right. That's true.
Right.
Come on now.
It shouldn't.
That's right.
If you knew that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was coming today, this house would be packed.
That's right. Teach on it, brother.
But we have over 166 mosques and study groups around America. Minister Farrakhan is one man. He can't be everywhere.
That's right.
Right. Come on.
So he sends representatives.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And the house is not packed.
Come on. Talk about it.
You know, there's a parable in the Bible where Jesus talks about a wedding that was going to take place. And he sends his people out to go and get the well-renowned people to come to the wedding. And everybody has something else to do.
My God.
So when they came back and told them the doctor couldn't make it, the lawyer couldn't make it, the priest couldn't make it, the politician couldn't make it. So he went and told them, go out into the highways and the byways
Right.
and get all that you can find. And bring them in and dress them up in the wedding garment. So this wedding can take place.
Right.
We got to marry our people unto God, brothers and sisters. We got to bring them to the wedding. You are joint heirs with Christ. So you inherit what he has. And what does he has? God told him, sit at my right hand and while I make your enemies your footstool. I will give you power over the sun, the moon, the stars, and every creeping thing that crawls. Jesus is recognized as the second Adam. That's raised with a quickening of the spirit.
Right.
Brothers and sisters, this is the time.
Right.
We can't play with this word.
Cannot.
We must know the time and what must be done. Y'all all right?
Yes, sir.
Say, Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan had did a lecture series for us back in 2013 on the time and what must be done. And as he talked about time, you know, you can tell that God is working through our brother because he can take what may seem simple and break it down so deeply to make you look deeper into it on things that you wasn't even thinking about.
That's right.
And I remember times when we would be around the minister at dinner and say, "Ah, brother minister, the way you taught today, I never thought about it the way that you said it until you said it."
Yeah.
He said, "That's why I'm here."
Yes, sir.
Because you would not be able to think about it until I tell you about it in the way that I tell you. And he wasn't being arrogant, it was just straight truth. Then he said, some of you, and it was all ministers there, have a heart that's shaped after my Father's heart. And some of you have a heart that he will remove and give you a heart shaped after his. I put my head down, I said, God. Because right away in my mind, I said to myself, he's talking about the heart of our thinking.
That's right. Exactly.
Because this heart that's in our chest, it's a muscle that pumps blood through the body.
That's right.
But it's this brain that controls the 9 systems of the body. So the heart of our thinking, what is at the foundation of our thoughts? See, this is why when we heard the minister say in the press conference, it's a final call to black people. A final call to black people. Well, what's the final call to black people? Well, as he said to us, that in that final call to black people, that you must change the way you think and the way you act. Because the time has arrived for you to do better and be better or suffer the chastisement of God until you submit to his will. And this is the crux of why I'm dealing with he makes all things new. Because brothers and sisters, we have to I feel that based off of that final call, there's a need for us to continue teaching on how we should think and how we should act, so that we may not get the behind whipping from God that is meant for the enemy.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And you know, I always talk about behind whippings.
Oh, yeah.
Because that is dealing with judgment. And we're in the time of judgment.
You're in that time.
But all of us can remember. Because if you never got your behind whipped before, I don't understand that. I mean, there are some people that, you know, my parents never whipped me. And okay, I just haven't grown to that level, because God says, spare the rod, spoil the child. Is that right? The Honorable Mrs. Farrakhan says the reason why your behind has so much flesh on it is so you can take that whipping that needs to go to that behind. So I'm not, you know, I'm just, because we're not talking about abuse.
No, sir. Come on now.
Is that right?
No.
Because we know we've come from an abuser, and you know, we've practiced what our oppressor has put on us.
Right.
I ain't talking about them iron cord whippings, making you go get in the tub and get out the tub and whip you butt naked with an ironing cord. That's straight up abuse, which is a product of what our ancestors went through in slavery that gets practiced. And if you've been through that, I know there's a scar there, and we have an antidote to help get rid of that scar. We have auditors in the room that can straight wire you from that. We don't want you to be to the point every time you get ready to iron something, you see that ironing cord, and you just got an attitude while you iron and wondering why you got that attitude, because you remember that it was that kind of cord that was used to whip your behind. No, you know, I'm trying to bring some levity to it, but this is serious. Look, that's serious. I've never experienced that, but I had friends who did. And I'm going to tell you straight up, I felt so bad for them when I saw them afterwards. I was 9 years, I wanted to whip their fathers behind. If I could have knocked him out, I would have straight up went in that house. And I'm just telling you, that's the kind of spirit that was in me, and it's still in me coming through life. I don't like to see somebody suffer unjustifiably. It makes me want to kill. I'm just going to tell you straight up. I don't even have to know you. But it's just that kind of thing that comes up like, yo, why he do that? So, let me just segue back, all right? What I was getting at, the atmosphere that's produced when someone's about to get a whooping. Other people around don't even want to be in that atmosphere.
That's right.
Is that right? They be like, no. Yo, I'll see you later, homie. Yo, you ain't gonna come with me up in there? Nah, man, I ain't going up in there. I think you need to handle that by yourself. You don't even want to be in that atmosphere.
That's right.
Because if you're in that atmosphere, you're affected by that atmosphere. Is that right? Well, brothers and sisters, we're in the time of judgment. And it's God's judgment. So the atmosphere is the way it is because God is judging today.
That's right, brother.
Trump is produced by God, man. Barack was produced by God. Bush was produced by God. Clinton was produced by God. Reagan was produced by God. Bush Sr. was produced by God, because it's judgment time. All of them are connected.
That's right.
Right there.
And the signs of distress that is on America right now.
Right.
If you're not looking with the proper lenses, you don't see it. Where do you think that fire in California is coming from? The sun? Well, who controls the sun? I mean, you can go into the science of it and think that the sun is belching out fire and is affecting the ozone layer. And that's pretty good science. But you can't have science without a scientist. Now try to act like there's some spookism, abracadabra, like there is no scientist that's controlling that. Where you think this snow is coming from? And it ain't even really begun to get to where it's going to get. The floods. The hurricanes. the millions and billions of dollars of damage that it does. The way it stops a whole community and society from moving and put everybody in despair. God is doing this, man.
That's right.
Right. No one else.
Praise you.
Right.
And we're in the atmosphere of it.
Oh,
That's right.
In the atmosphere. Don't know which way to run.
But he's not after you in that way. He's not after us in that way.
That's right.
He's after our enemy, but he's also after us in another way, that through this kind of distress, we may start really doing a seriously agonizing appraisal about ourselves.
All right.
All right now.
Outside, remove the car, remove the house, remove the clothes,
All right.
remove the eyebrows, the eyelashes, the fingernails, the weave, the toupee, all of that. I ain't gonna tell you remove the teeth. You can keep them. He's after us.
That's right.
Beyond our eyes.
Come on.
Beyond our voice box.
All right.
Beyond the surface of self, but that inner part of self.
Yes,
Right.
brother.
The essence of God that's in our soul.
My.
That accuses us when we're wrong. Warns us before going to do wrong. That part of self, that's what's being stirred up to let us know, man, you're not really being yourself.
Come on.
You're being other than yourself.
All right.
And I gotta find a way to get you to focus on yourself and me alone.
All right.
And there's too much of an obstacle in the way with this, what do they call it in the Bible? This beast.
Come on.
This harlot.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
This hoe that sits on many waters.
Man.
Yeah, it's coming back.
Alcohol.
You know, that has a golden chalice in her hand, filled of sin and abomination. It's America.
That's right.
Man.
She has her ships on many waters, threatening other countries, just by the presence of her warship. But she's filled with abomination. And as long as we think that we can get health care from her, as long as we think we can get a good job from her, as long as we think we can get proper education to be approved by her and her society, as long as we think that we can go to her to get what we need to fulfill our dreams, then we forget about God. So God got to take her down.
That's right. That's right.
See, God got to take her down and make her look useless in the eyes of people that look at her like a god.
Yes, sir.
And you may say, well, I don't look at America like a god.
Okay.
If you really study yourself, and I don't mean you. So, you know, I'm just speaking generally.
Yes, sir. Come on, sir.
We worship this beast.
Yes, sir. That's right. True. Fear.
Dude, brother.
If I tell you about America's planes and how magnificent they are,
Yes, sir.
and the power of speed that's in her planes and the best ones that she has.
Right.
But then if I start talking about the mother of planes that God has built and the power of speed that that plane has, because you've never seen it, you'll think I'm talking some more mystical stuff. Because there's no way possible something like that can exist. See, that's your worship of the white man.
That's it.
You don't think somebody can make something better than what he has.
That's
It is.
Because you've never seen it, but you have seen planes, right?
Yes, sir.
So why wouldn't you think there's one that's better than all of them?
Look at that.
See, we gotta, when we start talking about worship of someone, it's not a matter of you just bowing at their feet physically.
No, sir.
Come on.
But if you're bowing mentally,
My God.
then you worship him.
That's right.
If in your mind, the way that you see success is based off of the success of the enemy,
It
you
is.
worship him.
That's right. That's right.
It's not your fault. No one has introduced you some intelligence above his intelligence.
Oh, come on.
But oftentimes when that intelligence is introduced, you want to know, where did you get it from? And that's a legitimate question. But if I tell you where I got it from and that person you can't see, they're like, well, I don't believe that.
Right.
You got to show me a book where that is written. What book? One that white folks wrote?
Yeah, of course.
That's going to make you believe that what I am telling you is true?
Sure.
And why is that? Because there's no knowledge above his knowledge? Are you kidding me?
Eating it.
Bust that up.
White people weren't around when the pyramids were built.
That's right. Not at all, brother. No way.
White people were not around when the pyramids were built.
Not on the slant.
And to this very day, it's a wonder to them
That's right.
on how that was built. But it was our ancestors that built it.
Come on, brother. That's right.
With supreme mathematics.
That's right.
Using hydraulics and all that, but supreme mathematics. And you know what? There are other civilizations that white people have dug up and found and marvel over the relics of that civilization and still trying to figure out how was these people able to do all of this.
That's right. That's right.
Well, let me tell you what God taught us.
Come on.
That our ancestors, thousands upon thousands of years ago, knew that one from among us in our generations, I mean us, but our people, and our generations thousands upon thousands of years ago would produce another people from us to be in opposition to us. And the law among generations of gods, where you come from,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
is that one God is not allowed to borrow knowledge from another God.
All right.
God means force and power. Knowledge is power. The white man is a God,
That's right.
but he's a God of his own world.
That's right.
He's not a God of the world of the original people.
That's right.
He has us living in his world.
That's right.
So this is his heaven. And that's why the Revelation talks about a war in heaven. However, the point that I'm making with that is the reason why civilizations was buried is because we knew there was a time coming when a new man would come on the planet and he couldn't borrow from our wisdom. That's deep.